TV umpire to director, we have a review. Can you rock and roll it for me, please?
Welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll It, the cricket podcast of eternal optimism. This is a podcast where even if a batter gets out playing a single-handed reverse sweep, we say, well, he could have been out playing a forward defense, so what's the big deal? This is a podcast where even if you live in a city with a historic amount of traffic jams, we say, well, at least you can't meet with a high-speed accident. That's the kind of podcast this is, and I'm back with the original cast of this podcast, the Osho and Karl Marx of cricket, Sid Monga and Karthik Krishnaswamy. And we're going to get into a subject today which I think is going to have a lot of split opinion. We're going to be discussing India's T20 World Cup squad as well as the 3-1 victory against South Africa in the T20 International Series. Sid Monga, when I initially told him this was the topic, was afraid that we wouldn't have much to talk about because he was expecting the same squad that was announced for the South Africa series, but we actually have a bombshell. We have the vice captain Shubman Gill being dropped altogether from the squad. We have the return of Ishan Kishan, who hasn't played for India since 2023. We have Rinku Singh coming back in place of Jitesh Sharma. So let me start, Sid, with the headline news, which is Gill being dropped. What do you make of this happening at this hour before the World Cup?
Before going to that, I would like to suggest a change of name for our podcast and call it the Shannon Gabriel Appreciation Podcast. No, the Shannon Gabriel Appreciation Show. Because he quite sums up what we spoke about, the reverse sweep with one hand, or a Rishabh Pant Appreciation Society. Anyway, so as we have spoken previously, in T20 selections, I don't think that pivoting is that bad a move because current form matters a lot. Like in other formats, you can say class will out. In T20, sometimes you just don't have the time to kind of just iron out any small little kink that might have been in your game or whatever is causing you to have low scores. So pivoting is not a bad idea. Change at the 11th hour is not that scandalous a thing, but we have to be clear that the change is made for the right reasons. And if it was, I'm not like, I don't want to second guess, and I don't know what exactly they thought. But if it was about, Gill not getting runs and them deciding that Gill, whom they named the vice captain about 6 months ago and had such high hopes of converting him to a 3 format stars, he has been judged on a low run of low scores coming out of an injury, first of all. Second of all, these pitches have not been, the conditions keep changing all the time in this weather. You go to Dharamshala, it was seeming a lot. You go to different places, different things are happening. Did you decide then that the person who was named vice captain just to make sure that he plays every game is now not even good enough to be in the squad, and you can't even say that, hey, let's open with Sanju and let's keep Gill on the bench. Now, the reason that they've given for this pivot is that they wanted the keeper to be playing the same role, so that if there is an injury in the middle of the tournament, they get a like-for-like replacement. And that's why in the first place Sanju was in the squad, because if Sanju is not opening, I don't see a place for him in the squad. So he was kept in the squad just because he's a reserve wicket keeper. Now we come to a situation where they've decided, hey, we have decided Sanju is our keeper. So let's get a reserve keeper who plays the same role, and conveniently, the sequence of events can be debated, but they see Ishan Kishan doing well inside Mushtaq Ali Trophy, and they think, okay, we can do this, and they consider Rinku Singh for some reason, whom they did not give a game in their first 11s for a long time. They consider him to be better than Jitesh Sharma, so they make that switch. Now, I don't know what has happened. Jitesh Sharma has done nothing wrong in the opportunities that he has got. So you can say that for Shubman Gill, but not for Jitesh Sharma. So I don't know what has happened for them to decide, hey, we want Rinku Singh also in the squad, and he comes at the expense of Jitesh Sharma. Now, in all of this, Yashasvi Jaitwal is forgotten. Uh, he was your T20 reserve opener in the squad 2 years ago that won the World Cup, and if it was not for sentimental reasons, he would have been your number one player in that tournament in the 11. Now he then loses out. He loses out to your sentimental two seniors. Then he loses out to Gill because you want Gill to be the three format star. A very close line call between Gill and Jaiswal, as we discussed at that time when Gill was made vice captain. I mean, there's like really not separating the two. Probably they went for a right hand left hand combination, which yesterday Suryakumar Yadav went on to say is overrated. And now he's lost out to the shiny new toy Ishan Kishan, who has done well in the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy. So that consistency, that trust factor has to be under threat right now in the team, because Shubman Gill, until 2 days ago, he's thinking he's going to the World Cup as vice captain. He's preparing for it. Jitesh Sharma he's got 10 games or whatever, and he's done really well. And then all of a sudden they both find themselves out of the team. And now in 2-3 weeks, Gill will again be the captain for the ODI side. I don't know how Gambhir manages these kind of insecurities now. But coming to the bottom line is, you want a squad to win the World Cup, and if you had Rinku Singh if you wanted Rinku Singh desperately also in the squad, and the moment you made Akshar Patel the vice captain, Washington Sundar is not playing unless it is a pitch that is like really cracked up pitch that calls for 3 or 4 spinners, which you don't see happening in World Cups. So the moment you name Akshar Patel the vice captain, I don't see how Washington Sundar can fit into the 11. So why not have both Jitesh and Rinku? Because they are the two finishers. They are the two of your best choices. If you have, like, you've drawn a line under Riyan Parag, who also gives you a bowling option and who gives you an option of hitting high pace and hard lengths. Now, Rinku Singh, yes, which is why he's there, but the Jitesh Sharma does the same thing. Now, because you want a sixth bowling option, you also end up with two similar players, two pretty similar batters, Akshar and Shivam Dubey, who are spin disruptors, both left-hand batters. So I would have liked, okay, you can still live with that, but if you really wanted Rinku, he should have come in place of Washington Sundar into the squad. And once I would personally would have thought, like, Gill, I know Gill has a high ceiling. He's got a proven record in IPL over 2-3 IPLs, where even when playing within himself in a Gujarat Titans lineup where they had only 6 batters and Rashid Khan was at 7, he was still scoring at 150 strike rate. So I know he has the game, and he has a higher ceiling than Sanju Samson in T20 as a T20 opener. So I would have still stayed with him, but okay, it's a call. They know his game closer. They're watching him in the nets closer. If they have decided, yeah, maybe he's not in the right frame, okay, uh, you can make a pivot, but I just wonder if this pivot is made because of all the social media noise about it was almost like a campaign running against Gill, uh, and the coaches and the selectors getting affected by the noise outside the team, rather than just a cricketing reason to reward current form and pick the best combination.
Yeah, I just want to like step in for a second. And when you mentioned that, it's okay to pivot for a T20 selection because current form is you know, it makes much more of a difference sometimes than like long-term planning. And I tend to agree with that. But only on that question, I go back to that quote from, that Suryakumar Yadav, you keep hearing from him every now and then, which is that I'm out of runs, I'm not out of form.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't think Gill was out of form from whatever I've
Yeah, yeah,
watched of him.
and
Uh, he even in the Asia Cup, where the pitches were such that you had to just maximize that new ball when it was hard, and then it got kind of hard to time the ball. he was scoring really quickly in the power play, and him and Abhishek looked like a really, it looked like exactly the kind of combination India wanted.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
After that, in Australia, series disrupted by, weather, barely played any games there. Then the South Africa series, he gets injured. So I'm not seeing that, yeah, he didn't get any big scores, but I don't think he was out of form. For him, it's a
Exactly.
much clearer case of being out of runs than it is for the captain, Suryakumar, who I feel has actually been out of form as
Mm.
well. Uh, just in terms of how he's been playing, certain patterns and how he's been getting out, what areas of the field he's not been able to like score quickly, what
Mm.
lengths he's not been able to hit. So, and I'm not suggesting for a moment that India should have dropped Surya Kumar, but having made Gill your vice captain with a certain thinking that this is a player, you know, who they expect really big things out of, even in T20 cricket. At that
Yes.
time, I thought it was a kind of debatable call. I didn't think it was a wrong call. I just thought it was a call you could argue either way. But having made that call then to make him vice captain as well and picking him for a specific batting role, which is not of an anchor necessarily, which I think a lot of people they made this kind of contrasting. They've kind of created a contrast between Gill and Sanju Samson as openers. I don't see that. I don't see them as playing very
I
different
think Gill is
roles.
an yeah, I'm sorry, Gill is an upgrade on Samson as the opener.
Yeah, I mean, again, that you can debate as well, but I think, and since I think the start of last year, so let's give both of them a good number of matches, good enough sample size. In the power play, I think Gill has a higher strike rate than Samson, and Samson has made some hundreds and all, 300s, right, during this time. So,
Yeah.
uh, I again, I'm not saying I don't mind Samson opening with Abhishek and Gill not playing as a, just on its own terms. Like, forget all the other context around it. If you're asking me, you know, should if Abhishek Sharma is one of your openers, should Gill open with him or Samson? I'd say both are really good candidates. I don't have a problem with either. But having made that call after the Champions Trophy, when T20 cricket was going to be like a focus, made that call that okay, Gill is going to be one of your two main openers. He's going to be your vice captain. He's not had enough of a run to show that he's gone out of form. He's not had enough of a run to show that he's not doing the role they had assigned to him. So not it's not just a harsh call on him per se, which is an issue as well. It's also an unsettling call for a lot of people within that squad who must be wondering,
Yeah,
okay,
and
we could be doing nothing wrong and suddenly be out of the team. We could, I mean, you hear players from this.
it's almost an Ambati Raidu kind of situation, right? He did nothing wrong before the 2019 World Cup and he was left out.
But even there, like Ambati Raidu was okay, not your vice captain, and
Yeah,
it's not
fair.
right. So this is very different. Now, uh, somebody there could be sitting and thinking if Shubman Gill can suddenly get dropped like this out of the blue without having done much wrong or anything wrong as far as I'm concerned, then where does that leave players? Especially when all you hear from them when in interviews. Of course, it's a leading question when you ask them that is that, oh, Gambhir always tells me you're in. I don't care if you make three ducks in a row. You're my guy. You're going to play, which is fine. I mean, maybe he does
Yeah.
say that also. I'm not saying, and maybe he does feel that also. But it just creates a feeling of unsettledness that I don't think it's really good for the team on its own merits. Every player in that squad is like fine. I don't have an issue with the squad, but in terms of the context of the thinking that's gone on over many months, it just seems very scrambled to suddenly do this.
And not
Yeah, I
just
mean,
on
I
Gill,
think,
it's so harsh on Jitesh Sharma also,
That's right. Yeah.
who
yeah.
who's actually had
Yeah.
who's not even out of runs. Like Gill, you can say is out of runs, but not out of form. Jitesh is not even out of runs.
Yeah, I mean, just to quantify what they've been doing, Gill in the last 15 innings he's had since the start of the Asia Cup, averaging just under 25, strike rate of under 140. So the numbers haven't been great, but I think there's definitely been a lot of public pressure on him. I think even Sid, you said that he was included initially because India wanted a three-format player, I think actually that might be kind of a misconception because you just look at overall numbers. If you look at IPL numbers, and IPL is considered your premium T20 tournament, at least up until now, it has seemed that way. And over the last 3 years, Gill is the second highest run getter in that tournament behind only Virat Kohli, who's obviously not available for selection. He has better numbers than Sanju Samson or Ishan Kishan or anybody else. So his initial selection was absolutely fair, I think. And then, okay, you've given him 15 games. If you really feel he's out of form, you have the option of just keeping him in the squad and letting Sanju Samson open. But for me, what is even stranger is actually the choice of replacement. In suddenly going to Ishan Kishan, who has not played for India since 2023, who has not been part of the setup, and who frankly has shown in IPLs that there are things lacking in his game. Even the last IPL he had for SRH, he had 100 to start off, and then he had a 90 late on in the tournament, but not a lot in between. And in fact, till that 90 odd, there were conversations about whether SRH would even retain Ishan Kishan. And now suddenly, from having not paid as much attention to SMAT and having given IPL more importance, you are picking a player for a World Cup 2 years after he's played for India, purely based on a performance in Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy. It is a little bit of a recency bias to my mind. I don't understand why they would not have considered Yashasvi Jaiswal, Ruturaj Gaikwad, any of the other players who were there in your lineup, especially because, as it says, Jitesh Sharma has. I mean, Ronak Kapoor, our colleague, I'm sorry, but I completely disagree with him when he was saying on another show of ours that having Gill at the top upset the balance of India's side. It actually doesn't at all because you have a keeper who can bat lower down, I think he's had one failure literally in the games he had. He had a 3 where he got out. Otherwise, he's had mostly not outs or like 20s of, at a strike rate of above 150. And in fact, I would say that having him in the lower middle order helps you because you have a lot of lefties there anyway. In fact, now Rinku Singh comes in. And remember, Rinku Singh now is most likely going to be a member of the starting 11 because of the combination you're going with. It's not even like he'll be a squad member. He'll be starting. Rinku Singh has faced one ball in T20 internationals in the past 6 months. That one ball where he got a 4 against Pakistan in the final, that's all he's played. And now you have a scenario where in your top 8, you're going to have 5 left-handers. In fact, if Ishan opens ahead of Sanju Samson, that will be 6 left-handers. So this, the reasoning that this is better for the combination, I don't actually get it because Jitesh was an absolutely fine option to have in the lower middle order. In fact, I would have said, okay, fine, even if you feel like Gill needs to be dropped, let's just say that the selectors have spotted something in his game where they feel it's off, they need to leave him out. You can always pick a Jaiswal or a Ruturaj Gaikwad or any of the other openers who have been more consistent over a longer period of time than Ishan Kishan, and you have the option of either having a keeper to open or a keeper in the middle order, which I would actually say gives you more flexibility, more options, rather than saying that, no, we will pick Ishan Kishan. It just feels to me like the selectors have maybe given into a bit of public pressure in saying we want to replace Gill and therefore we will replace him with the player who has been doing well in domestic cricket, because that's another accusation that has at times been made against them, that they have not given enough importance to domestic cricket. So it's almost like they're saying, hey, you wanted guys from domestic cricket, here is the highest scorer from Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy. But are you guys as concerned as I am that Ishan Kishan is now part of this squad with just 5 games to go to the World Cup when he has not played any international cricket since 2023?
See, you're right. Like if I were a data analyst and I was giving a presentation on bowling plans, I definitely have more options against Ishan Kishan. I would have more options to tell my bowlers when they're bowling against Ishan Kishan than Yashasvi Jaiswal. For sure. Like there are more holes that I can target as a bowler in Ishan Kishan's game than Jaiswal's. He against good high quality pace, there are question marks against Ishan Kishan's game. I'm not saying he will not do well or he's going to fail, because all these guys are like really good. He's one of the really good batters. But I really feel that yes, there are more batters there are better openers going around. But the thing is, like as Karthik mentioned, Suryakumar's form. So he somehow optics have started mattering a lot more to these guys than they did to the previous teams, and it's just not good optics when Suryakumar Yadav, who's not scored a 50 all year, and he's gone on a bigger lean run than Shubman Gill, coming out and saying we dropped Gill because his form is not good. So they could have then Ishan Kishan becomes like a convenient option. Hey, the combination was not fitting. We are not dropping Gill for form. We are dropping because we wanted a better combination. If they replace him with just another opener, they don't have that reasoning to put forward. So I don't think the selectors have given into the public pressure. I think the selectors have given into the team management pressure, who kind of tend to, we have seen a trend over the last 2 years, who kind of tend to get swayed by what is being said in public and what is said in media.
I think Ishan Kishan is there because I am willing to buy that reasoning that okay, maybe Sanju moved ahead of Gill in the queue for opening with Abhishek, and
Abhishek.
they were like, okay, you know, let's stick with that combination and like make sure that we don't keep unsettling the middle order if Sanju goes out of form or like he gets injured or whatever. I'm willing to buy that reasoning, but I don't know if, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you've not been picking Rinku Singh all these days, right? If you've not valued him enough as a middle order finisher all these days to keep picking him, suddenly he becomes such an important player when actually the other guys haven't done badly. Uh, and you're like, no, we have to have him in the 11. That's what it seems like now, where Rinku becomes a starter. And because of all that, Ishan Kishan, who happens to have scored these runs in the Syed Mushtaq Ali, he comes in, right? It's I'm not sure because like as much as like it matters that he scored those runs in the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, it quality of bowling there is it's it's mixed. It's not great. It's not like consistently like testing you in every way possible. So, is that enough of a reason to suddenly get a guy into the squad uh, after 2 years? I mean, he's definitely got that quality that made them include him in the first place. So I don't think they have that much doubt over him that they wouldn't have picked, say, an uncapped player who had scored the same number of runs at the same strike rate in this domestic tournament. They've picked him because he's also like got international experience. He's done well in international cricket a few times, and he's done this. So that's fair enough. But the combination of all these things put together, it's just a muddle as far as I'm concerned. It's unless like so things just click into place in this New Zealand series, and then they go into this World Cup very, very sure of their starting 11. They could have problems if they're suddenly changing their team in the third game, changing their combination entirely in the third game of the tournament, which happens to be a must-win game or some such thing. So I'm not very convinced by Ishan Kishan's selection, not for the issue of not that I don't think he's a good player. I just don't think there's enough that's happened over the last few months to suggest that he is not just your backup keeper, but your backup opener as well.
Yeah, and by the way, on Rinku Singh,
They had 5 games against New Zealand, plus the first 5 games of the World Cup are also warm ups. So it's, I mean, they can afford to make even big blunders just on the basis of the strength of the talent that India has in T20 cricket. And like, I mean, Bumrah, Varun, Kuldeep, Abhishek, these 4 or 5 guys are non negotiables. And I think you pick anyone else from a list of two. I'll give you a list of two. You pick anyone else, and you will still be like odds on favorites to win the World Cup at home. So, I mean, the team management can afford to be in a muddle, make blunders just on the sheer talent that you have and the sheer soft launch that you have into the tournament, where not before the second round, there's nothing, no serious game before the second round. And then is then is when it like gets real, where you have to win 2 out of 3 games in the Super 8. Anything can happen, night time, due time, lose the toss. We debated a lot, but I don't really think 1 or 2 selections are going to cost India the World Cup. even if they don't win it, it will not be down to this one selection that they lose the World Cup if they do.
I mean, I'm not so sure about that. I'm also looking at some numbers. Like, for example, one concern I have about Rinku Singh is that his strike rate against spin is just 120. And we've seen even during this previous IPL that if he has to come in earlier, he can't get going against spin. Jitesh Sharma has a much better balance of strike rate against both pace and spin. Again, like, it seems like the selectors have reacted as if India have been doing badly in T20 cricket of late. They haven't. They've been winning. They won the Asia Cup. They're winning bilaterals. And I mean, okay, again, I think there's public pressure on Gill. You can always solve that by just saying, okay, he steps down from the 11. Sanju Samson opens. There's no problem in having Jitesh Sharma still as your finisher and keeper. He's just as good as Rinku Singh. In fact, some of the data shows that he might be slightly even an upgrade on Rinku Singh there. I know this is controversial, and there are a lot of strong opinions. There are a lot of people who are massive fans of Rinku Singh, massive fans of Sanju Samson, who think that these players are, like miles better than Gill or Jitesh Sharma. But if you look at pure data, it tells you that they're actually not. That in fact, the selectors initially, when they had made their calls, were doing it based off data, and now it seems like they're making it more based off of emotion and fan sentiment or pressure. Which, I mean, it is a bit of a concern because, again, Rinku Singh coming in, I have no idea what kind of form he's going to be now in going into the World Cup. And it does give you three left-handers, Dubey, Aksar and Rinku all together there between numbers 5 and 8. I mean, it may not matter because the way Hardik Pandya is batting, I mean, he may just, score 60 of 20 balls in every game. And I think that's the point Sid's making, that you have so much talent outside of these positions with your bankers that it may not matter. But it still seems like to me a slightly strange call especially to pivot towards Ishan Kishan and then Rinku Singh back again, especially when you have the option of just having Rinku and Jitesh both in the squad. But anyway, that's the selection that the selectors have gone with. As Sid says, India will still be favourites in the T20 World Cup. Sorry, Sid has something to say. Yes.
No, I'm not saying that this is not a wrong call. I still feel it's a minor downgrade over the original spot, but I'm saying that they can get away with it because India are just so.
But even more, Sid, I would just, I would.
I mean, in a non-due game, India are so far ahead of the field that they can get away with the thing. And also the other point that you were making, just 1 second, that we had a simple solution that you leave out Gill and play Samson as the opener in the squad. It's not that simple for this team management because we have seen because Gill is a vice captain and this team management has been reluctant to make those big calls by themselves. There's a trend. The players have to either go out of the squad or the big players continue playing. Where this is where the man management is missing. I don't think Gautam Gambhir wanted to make the call that I will sit my vice captain out of the 11, which is why he wanted him completely out of the squad.
I mean, yeah, again, I don't see the big deal in that. Or they could have easily just said we're not going to have a vice captain or name someone else a vice captain. My point is, Sid, that what you're saying is that I agree with you that India could probably win this World Cup with, various different squads. But even more so than why now do this to a player who is so important to you in tests and ODIs? Even more of a reason to say, okay, if we have such a strong team, let's carry this guy as a squad member because he's like the future for us in tests and ODIs. Even more of a reason not to do this to him. I know people are trying to now say, oh, it's fine. It's, he'll deal with it and stuff. I'm sure it's going to be a massive blow to him to miss out on the World Cup altogether. I think if he had at least been a part of the squad, okay, he can live with that saying, I've not done well. I'm now out of the 11. But to be dropped from the squad, I mean, from a human perspective, I don't see how this doesn't affect him negatively in some way. You can always try to say, oh, he'll be motivated by it and stuff. I don't know I wouldn't like this happening to me in my job. Let's put it that way. I don't think I'd be motivated if I, suddenly was just not only removed from Rock and Roll It, but removed from Cricinfo altogether. Because I'm not doing well on Rock and Roll It. It kind of feels like that. Like, okay, you've not done your job as a anchor of Rock and Roll It well, so you are fired from Cricinfo altogether. It doesn't matter if you're doing your other things right. Anyway.
It is going to be worse on Gill and Jitesh than it would have been on Rinku. I mean, it was also like Rinku would have felt unfortunate to miss out, but it would not have felt that bad because it has been coming for a year. But for Gill and Jitesh to come immediately out of the blue, it's worse. At KK, you were saying.
Yeah, just slightly like on Rinku, you said that Jitesh has a better balance of pace and spin strike rates, which is fair. But I think probably what India, I mean, to give them a little bit of, this could be their thinking, which is that I'm thinking they look at Rinku as, say, a number 7, like he's going to come in the death overs in an ideal scenario, not before that, because they have other guys, because they can promote an Akshar Patel, because they have Hardik Pandya probably batting at 5, uh, who can do these jobs, or if Dubey plays, he could also like go up. So therefore, they were looking primarily at a guy who can hit against fast bowling, and they were like, let's get maybe who they think is the best guy for the role, which could very well be Rinku Singh, and they went with him because of that, which is fair enough. I would just think that this thinking could have, I mean, it makes sense. It makes so much sense that you think, okay, why didn't you think this earlier if you had this level of role clarity and
It
then
makes too much
had him
sense.
consistently playing, right? But yeah, that could be the thinking.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, let's switch to some positives for India because I mean they've made these changes as I said, I don't they're panicking and losing, but they've actually been winning. And let's recap the T20 series against South Africa because I thought the story, and you guys can tell me what you think, but I thought the story of this series was of course Hardik Pandya's batting, which we'll get to, but India's bowling just looked so strong in home conditions in this series. I thought Arshdeep Singh looked as good as he's ever looked as a T20 bowler, and of course he's been very good for a long time now. But he seems to be just adding to his skills, getting better at knowing when to use them. Harshit Rana, I mean, if there was any pressure on the selectors to leave him also out, he's also come good now, so they could rest easy about that. And then of course Varun Chakravarti, Bumrah in that last game, where actually 231 for a while was not looking like an ungettable score on a pitch that was playing very well. He just came in and bowled an incredible spell. Are you guys in agreement with me that actually at the moment India's bowling looks like their stronger suit in T20 internationals, which is something that I mean maybe we would not have said a few months ago. KK, you watched the series. What do you think?
I think I think we would have probably said that even last year when they were piling up those big record scores, and all, simply by virtue of having like Bumrah and Varun and Kuldeep Yadav, these kinds of players. So you could still say that your bankers are these bowlers, and you have a damn good batting lineup on top of that. So I don't think it's a controversial call to say that in any way. Right now the bowling looks superb. On Arshdeep Singh, uh, yeah, he looked really good too. Except when he came up against when Quinton de Kock went after him and he ended up bowling a lot of wides in a couple of games. I think there was that one game where he bowled that 13 ball over, 7 wides in that over, and there was the last game as well when he that same like he early in the over he went after him, hit him I think over mid on or mid wicket, and then after that he felt pressured to kind of go to let's look for a death bowling kind of strategy right away and either go wide Yorker or like go at the heel, and which is a fair risk to take. You're like, I don't mind giving away one with a wide, if the converse of that is I nail it and it's a dot ball or a single, right? It's fair enough. But I thought like maybe it's a little early to get under that level of pressure that you're going to your death option so quickly. But otherwise he is bowling really well. Um, but yeah, it's a fair to come back to your question. Yeah, it's fair to say that the bowling is the thing that makes all these other debates less of a worry, like over the combination, over whether your keeper is opening or in the middle order, whether that's disrupting the other players, whether Suryakumar Yadav is out of form. When you have bowling like that, I think you can afford to maybe end up like 10 runs short sometimes. It's not an ideal scenario, but yeah, with especially in that final game when the ball was changed and Bumrah bowled that one over to Quinton de Kock, and he got his wicket in that over, right? And I think once that wicket happened, you knew that they'd start pulling things back. You didn't know that it would happen so quickly with Varun getting two back to back so quickly. But you knew that, once they could get a wicket and get some semblance of control, that, it wasn't that South Africa were running away with the game, even though they had a few really big overs. So that's the kind of bowling that India do have right now. And yeah, it's definitely the biggest strength for them going into the World Cup.
One small point to add was that uh, if the pitches are as flat as they were in Ahmedabad, then we saw some crazy shots by Pandya, especially hitting sixes, it's not even stepping out, and without getting to the pitch of the ball, which tells you how good the pitch was. Bowlers kind of, you know, it kind of gets neutered the marginal utility of your bowlers, as opposed to the opposition kind of becomes gets minimized, especially when there is due. So it is important, and it was good to see that India were aiming for 20 more than what was par at at the time that they were batting. Not until Surya got out, but after Surya got out, Pandya, Verma, everyone was looking for 230 at least, and not for 200, which is good to see. But yeah, and India's like the business end of the tournament is going to be those 5 matches where you have to win the 2 out of the first 3 in the Super 8s against Australia, South Africa, and West Indies, and then you have to win the semi-final and the final. Anything can happen on those days, man. You lose the toss, you get into a pitch like Ahmedabad, and there is a lot of dew. Even Bumrah can be taken apart. Even Varun can be taken apart. So batting has to kind of always keep India in the game and give bowlers. I mean, no matter how much better Indian bowlers are than the opposition, it's T20 is a very, very unfair game where you don't play in the same conditions. Conditions change dramatically over the course of 3 hours. So you have to keep that in mind.
Maybe this was why India, didn't want a flat pitch in Ahmedabad on November 19, 2023. Maybe this is why they tried so hard to get conditions
But that's
where
ODIs
I
you
know,
get a
but
bigger window. ODIs, the bowlers get a bigger window to make a difference.
yeah, fair. No, it was just a random thought that popped into my head.
Yeah, but maybe this is what worked for India in the last World Cup, where because of TV pressure, India played all the games at 9 a.m. And the conditions didn't change so much over the course of the game, and they got a little bit of grip, which they wanted from the pitches. And
Yeah,
now the TV pressure means that India have to play all games in the night.
that's
So
right.
Yeah, I guess when I was talking about India's bowling, the one possible weakness that I may have seen a few months ago was in that fourth and fifth bowler, because of course you've got three very strong bowlers. But I think a massive positive for them has actually been Shivam Dube's bowling. He's bowled 23 point something overs since the start of the Asia Cup and gone at less than 9 and over. And he's actually been a wicket taker, 10 wickets in those games. And I think there's only been one game where he's been taken down, which was at Hobart, where he went at 14 plus. But I thought that he might be one of those guys who in certain games gets targeted, but he's actually not had too many of those games. Of course, India protect him in the sense that they give him the easier overs to bowl, but that is what you do with your fifth bowler generally. Aksar has, of course, been absolutely brilliant, gone at less than 7 and over since the start of the Asia Cup. And even, I mean, Hardik Pandya, we'll talk about his batting in a bit, but his bowling is also looking good where, he's not going for too many runs, often chipping in with wickets. And on the combination, what do you guys think now in terms of what India will go with during the World Cup? Because during the Asia Cup, they were going with the two attacking spinners, Kuldeep and Varun, and just Bumrah. Do you think now Arshdeep becomes more or less a banker with Kuldeep missing out, or could it still depend on pitches? I think India in the World Cup, their Super 8 games they play in Ahmedabad, then in Chennai, and then in Kolkata. And then, of course, for the semi-finals, they play in either Kolkata or Colombo, and the final, if they reach there, will be in either Ahmedabad or Colombo, depending on the opponent. So, do you think the combination will keep changing, or is it now most likely to be Arshdeep, Bumrah, Varun, and then your all-rounders?
I love your optimism, first of all, thinking that the final could be in Colombo or the semi-final could be in Colombo.
I mean, I'm
Given
just
the
saying what is
given the
technically
state,
correct.
given how Pakistan have been doing, I mean, that's great optimism. Well done. We're keeping in with the spirit of the show. But see, I think Asia Cup, the pitches had a lot of grip. and there was no due, so it made sense to play both Kuldeep and Varun. I don't think both Kuldeep and Varun will play unless there's a turning pitch or if Bumrah is injured. Because if Bumrah is injured, you can still get Kuldeep in because you cannot play both Kuldeep. Because Ashraf has to play. You need two fast bowlers in Indian conditions. So he has to play. So you cannot have Kuldeep batting at 8. So I really doubt Varun and Kuldeep both play unless the pitch is like really, really cracked up and expected to turn. So that the combination kind of is there. Shivam Dube, yes, numbers are impressive, but as you said, he's been protected. I don't want my number 6 bowler to be, getting wickets when the going is good. I want my number 6 bowler to be able to give me an over for 10 runs when the opposition has scored 120 runs in 10 overs, so that it takes the
But
pressure off one of my death bowlers. So have they used him? They have not used him in those situations, and he gets into the side because of having bowled these overs. And in terms of batting, it kind of causes an imbalance. Two left-hand batters, two spin disruptors, both doing the same role. I mean, you you can either promote Dubey or you can promote Aksar, and they can both be slightly wanting against high-paced short of a length bowling, for which they have had to bring Rinku Singh now. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sixth bowler. You have also Tilak and Abhishek. I really don't think you need Shivam for his role as a sixth bowler. I would want him to get selected just on his batting and then take his bowling as a bonus.
I'll say one thing though, which impressed me in that match that India lost in New Chandigarh, where India did have to turn to him in a situation where South Africa were really like going great guns, and he bowled two really good overs there, I thought.
Oh, nice.
Like, into the pitch, like got there's a small window of grip for his cutters, and he used that well and didn't stray from his plan. Didn't bowl bad balls. I think he was hit for 1-4, and it was a really good shot by Dewald Brevis over mid off, like off a length ball. So 2 overs he bowled, and 18 or something like that, he went for 20. I thought he was fine. So, and
Okay.
he's looked like generally when they've given him the ball, I don't think he's bowled. I don't remember a bad over he has bowled in where he has done something, or he may have gone for runs. That one game you mentioned, I don't think I watched it very closely. The one in Australia where he did go for a lot of runs. Otherwise, he's done the job asked of him. So as far as that goes, I think he's impressed me. I didn't think he was as good as he has shown himself to be in this run of games.
Yeah, and also the advantage of using him as a bowler is that if Hardik Pandya happens to get injured, which is quite a possibility with him, whenever workloads increase, he kind of, and hopefully it does not happen. Hopefully T20 workloads are not that big. But if it does get injured, you have a seam bowling all-rounder who has been doing a job. So yeah, that kind of
Yeah, and to
works
be
for.
fair, I mean, he did open the bowling in the Asia Cup final when he was needed to when Hardik was injured. And there have been a couple of other spells. I think there was also the spell against Australia and Carrara where he came on when the going wasn't that good for India, and he actually bowled 2 overs and took two pretty important wickets. So he has, I think, taken at times wickets at important times. I think in that game, Mitch Marsh was going really well, and he got Mitch Marsh out at a point when it looked like Mitch Marsh might take the game away from India. He then got Tim David out. So two very good wickets he got in back-to-back overs. So he's shown a little bit with the ball. He may not, have the pace or look that impressive, but he's proved himself to be a pretty decent fifth, sixth bowling option. But let's talk a little bit about Hardik Pandya's batting, because that was the other story of the series against South Africa. This is like, to me at least, I haven't seen Hardik bat this aggressively for I don't know how long. I mean, of course, we've all known that he's one of the top T20 finishers in the world, but there was this whole phase where he had shifted to Gujarat Titans, moved up the order, and then his role was changing a little bit. And he's had some good innings, but I can't remember the last series where his batting was this much of a story, where he's come out, for example, and, just hit the first ball for six, stepped down and smashed the ball, hit the cameraman on the shoulder, and looked like he's wanted to hit every single ball for six. We've often seen him, in fact, especially when he's starting against spin, sometimes he'll block a couple of balls and then get going. And he's always known he has the game to kind of catch up with the scoring rate later. But this intent where he seems to, I mean, it looked like he might get a 50 and he might beat Yuvraj Singh's record at one point. Then he eventually got it in 16 balls. I mean, is this as good as you've seen Hardik bat, KK?
Yeah, for quite a while, and even the first game, like apart from that 16 balls, 50, the first game also he I think made a big difference because
Yeah, it was a pitch where everybody was struggling. I think
this is the exactly. This is the Cuttack game where I think he gave India that extra cushion, and of course, like South Africa get bowled out for 74, and it doesn't matter in the end. But his innings actually, I think, put it slightly to that territory where South Africa had to play very very well.
They couldn't take their time.
Yeah. So even that was a really impressive innings, and it was kind of funny where it shows the randomness of T20 and where sometimes it's just on the day how you're feeling and how things are going for you. Because on a much more straightforward pitch in the next game, he got really stuck in New Chandigarh. But that happens in the odd game, and that half quick 50, that was just like phenomenal to watch. And like Sid said, it wasn't like he was hitting bad balls. The way sometimes he's clearing his front leg and like the ball was length or just short of good length and hitting it with a sort of straight bat over long on or wide long on, that's just phenomenal. And even along the ground, he was hitting a few shots like that. And I think he's probably done some work on his hitting in the last few months, maybe. But he's always had this in his game. I don't think we've ever doubted that. So it was just great to see him bring it into these moments, especially against spin, where from the start going after spin, which he used to do very early in his career, like hit a lot of sixes against spin. I remember hitting Adam Zampa for a bunch of sixes, or in that Champions Trophy game,
2017.
That's right. Yeah. See, he used to do this where early in his innings he'd just get stuck into the spinners. He kind of stopped doing that, but that is really good to see again. And going after George Linde when he was bowling a superb spell. Like when
he was a lovely bowler.
When he was bowling quick with quite a bit of overspin and getting the ball to grip as well. Suddenly he came out and it looked like a very different spell. So that's the quality of his hitting. That was superb to watch.
And none of that balls was a bad ball in that over that he hit for sixes. It was, he's looking like close to what he was in that Mumbai Indians dominant era around 2020 when everything was just, everybody knew their role, everybody had their roles cut out, and him and Pollard were in that hitting roles, and he is looking as good as that. And I'm just glad that he's again, we are just assuming a few things, but from the outside, it looked like he was trying to copy MS a lot once he became captain, and he was even blocking out when MS plays T20. When he's not hitting, he's just blocking. And Hardik Pandya went into that phase where he would, not do anything in the first 10 balls, or keep himself only for the last 4 overs. So he's completely given up on that. He's like, I can go out any time of the innings and I can hit any bowler. And I'm sure there's work gone behind it. He must be feeling fitter than ever. He must have had time to work on his hitting. But yeah, I'm glad he's not doing a predetermined, premeditated thing that MS used to do, and which kind of worked for him, but it is not going to work for everyone.
A little bit of that was maybe down to playing in that Gujarat Titans team without a lot of batting depth. So it could have just been a conscious role thing, saying we don't have guys beyond Rashid Khan, so maybe I can't afford to go in and start hitting straight away. But yeah, I don't think, was he doing that when he returned to Mumbai as well? My mind has blacked out on this question.
Yeah, I think he was struggling for form a little bit, certainly last season with the bat. I mean, that was well documented. This season, he did have some good innings, but he was kind of still, I mean, at times I thought he was being overshadowed, for example, by Namandir coming in late. But I mean, it just again another player who seems to have been rejuvenated by a bit of a break. We've seen what that's done for Kohli and Rohit, and maybe this is a whole separate rock and roll it altogether about how to manage players. But it definitely looks like he's
We'll
benefited a little bit from a break. Uh,
we'll do that rock and roll after taking a break, so that to see whether our performance also improves.
Listen, we've been doing these only once every 2 weeks of late. Okay, so we've had enough breaks. But anyway, uh, a lot of other positives for India from the series, which I'll just quickly run through. Like Tilak Verma, of course, just continuing his good form, 250s in the series, both are over 170. But let's also talk about a little bit of the negatives. I mean, there's one big one, obviously. Now, Gill was one of them, but he's no longer part of the squad. But the captain, Suryakumar Yadav, again having a lean series. KK, I know you have a lot of numbers on him, but I'll frame the question to you this way because he said two things in this recent press conference announcing the squad that were actually kind of contradictory. Because on the one hand, he said that I know what to do. I know where things are going wrong. I've got some time to work on it. So there he was showing a lot of clarity in that, okay, I know what's going wrong, so I'm going to fix it. But then he also said, I've been batting beautifully in the nets. This is a small hurdle. It's invisible. I can't see it, but I'll overcome it, I'm sure. So kind of contradictory things where on the one hand he's kind of indicating that I know what's going wrong, I know what to fix, but on the other hand he's saying that it's actually invisible and he doesn't but he will figure out what to do, right? But you have some numbers on him and what you think he's going wrong and what he can fix, right?
Yeah. So one thing I will say is like, we often read a lot into what people say at press conferences. Look, they're not paid. Their job isn't to communicate in the clearest possible way and in the most honest possible way in press conferences. Sometimes it helps to not be super honest also. Uh, but there it seems like a kind of thing of what I want to say is that I'm actually batting beautifully in the nets, which he said in a presentation as well on during one of the games. You're batting beautifully in the nets. It's just a question of runs. It's not form. But sometimes you keep talking and it slips out. The real thing slips out where he does feel that there is something to work on. There is some, area of his game where something has crept in, which he's trying to iron out. And it's kind of clear, like from how he's been getting out, from how teams have been bowling to him, that he's been kind of struggling against full lengths from fast bowlers of late. And that's a major concern because you're batting at 3 or 4, you're going to be facing a lot of fast bowling. You're going to the one thing, that if you asked a bowler when Surya Kumar was really killing it, like scoring runs for fun, hitting wherever he wanted to, picking a spot. When he was batting like that, when you asked a bowler, okay, what is your plan? How do you think you can kind of, keep him quiet? They'd struggle for an answer, right? Now you're giving them a very straightforward thing. Just look to bowl full. Uh, and I haven't even broken this down into lines or something. Like against all fuller lengths, going from full toss to good length, which means if you aim full and if err either side, you still have a big enough window to err. He's averaging 4.83 in against those lengths over a long period. This is since November 2024. So there's 15 dismissals, adding up to this number of 4.83. So it's not just that they're tying him down, he's getting out as well to those lengths. He's kind of been struggling for par, which you can see where, he's been getting out caught at mid-off while looking to chip over the top, or even while looking to drive where he's not getting his weight into the shot. He's
Even his pickup shot is ending with the fielders.
Yeah, that's right. So, feels like there's some issue. I'm not an expert on technique to be able to say what it is. And, if you watch him and say, oh, he's lifting his head too early or whatever, but even when he was really scoring a lot of runs and he's scoring hundreds and all, say in Nottingham, he's hitting these sixes over extra cover where he was still leaning back. He was still kind of almost jumping back and hitting over extra cover. So that's his game sometimes. So you can't make a very superficial judgment on the way he's been getting out also. But, it is something that I'm sure like the batting coaches and he himself would know what is going wrong and what he needs to do. But there is something. There's clearly something where that he needs to address. Whether he has the time to be able to do that before the World Cup is a question that is a slightly worrying question right now.
Yeah, it was an excellent piece which kind of covered almost everything without getting into Hawkeye data. We will leave the link for it in the show notes. I just wanted to, I just wonder, in addition to it, if he's carrying a wrist niggle, because his wrists are very important to in his game, and he gets a lot of power out of wrists. Him kind of connecting well and not clearing the boundary. I just wonder if there is something, where he's not getting his full power from the wrists. That's the only thing I wonder.
I've been seeing some whispers of that, but again, not from any credible sources as far as I know. So I don't know, but there could be something if so many people are talking
Hmm.
about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
others.
Yeah. Just throw out one other thing that I have looked at the stats and also observed visibly is that he has been getting out a lot to slower balls. So we have him getting out 13 times to off cutters and leg cutters in the past year. That's out of about 25 dismissals against pace bowling. This is according to our ball by ball data, so it's not maybe 100% accurate because we don't have Hawkeye data. This is by observation, but I did notice him getting out quite a few times to off cutters even during the IPL. I guess the one thing which is will make India fans hopeful is that he did look really good during the IPL, where he got again 700 runs in the season at a strike rate of almost 170. So he was outstanding in the IPL. He had some innings even on really tough tracks for Mumbai towards the back end of the season. I think it was that game against RCB, right, where they ended up playing on a really tough track, and he still managed to get a really important 50. So he was showing signs of being at his best in the IPL, but somehow again when it comes to international cricket, his lean run that started last year is just kind of continuing. So that's something that India will just have to contend with. Obviously, he's the captain, he will play, and you would just have to hope that he gets into form, I guess. Any other sort of holes that you see in India's side? I mean, I guess one thing we need to discuss now is Sanju Samson as the opener, because it looks like he's going to be first choice opener. I think, Sid, you did notice something about Samson batting outside the power play. I was looking at a few numbers in the last 12 months. Outside the power play, his strike rate is just above 130. So there's a significant slowdown. This wasn't so much the case in the previous year where he was getting a lot of hundreds and he was able to accelerate outside the power play. But is that a bit of a concern for you, Monga? Just Samson outside the power play, will he be as effective?
Yeah, it is a bit of a concern that he is kind of, probably because he was not getting a lot of games. Probably he thought, hey, big scores is what gets selected, what gets you selected for India, and not trying to do what is the best, what's the best for the team. So he kind of tried to build those into big scores, and the big scores came, and thus there was so much pressure for him when Gill was played. I mean, from the public and from the pundits, who like before he scored those hundreds, people were not pushing so much for Sanju's after his hundreds, which kind of involves a period of play where he kind of consolidates after the power play. And more than just from over 6 to 20, I'm more worried about overs, say 6 to 9, where or then let's say 6 to 12. 6 to 12 in the last 3 years, Shubman Gill has got much better numbers than even Jaiswal and Samson. So that is why I considered Gill a better choice, because I mean, hundreds are okay, but I want them to maximize the first 10 overs and not slow down after the sixth over. So that is but again, it's a small concern. If you compare him with the openers worldwide, he might still be a pound for pound, he might still be one of the best among the world. But that's just something. That's just one small hole that stands out. I mean, George Linda kind of completely shut him in that period, in that innings that everybody is swooning over. Uh, in the last T20, in the 6 overs, he was going great. And after that, once the field spreads out, once the pace is taken off the ball, he went just at a run a ball, and that included 1 6 when uh, uh, that over was such a good example. Those 2 overs are such a good example of what I'm trying to say. Samson, he batted like an expert batter in those 2 overs. Everything that was on a good length, he did not take a risk. And the moment he fractionally overpitched, he hit a 6, which is great in an ODI. In an ODI batter. Do you want that to be happening in T20I for 3-4 overs? That can kind of take away your crucial 10 runs that you might need later in the due.
So I'll say a couple of things. One is I think this year his middle overs numbers may be a little worse because he was batting in the middle order quite a bit in the Asia Cup, and I think in one game in no, I don't think he even got into the
compared with IPL. I also compared the
Yeah.
IPL numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. But I don't think last year when he was scoring those hundreds that he was slowing down necessarily after the
I've got his numbers here. So if you look at the last 3 years, actually, in the overs Monga's talking about, between over 6 and 12, he goes at 170 actually in T20 internationals. In IPL in the same period, he was going at under 140. So I think IPL is where Gill had better numbers. But in T20, is obviously not a huge sample size. This is just 15 innings that I'm looking at, because there would be many innings where he didn't bat outside the power play. But in those 15 innings, he has done pretty well. If you take a 3-year span, if you take the span of just this year, it's not been as impressive.
So I'll say one. So in the IPL for Rajasthan is largely batted at 3, correct? And for India,
Yeah.
he's mostly either opened or there's a few games where he's batted the proper middle order 5, 6. So when you open, if you get into the middle overs at all, you're already like batting fluently. And so that if that is the thing you're judging him on, I don't think he's done badly over a fairly large sample size. As you say, like in T20 I's 170-ish strike rate, in 6 to 12 is, 7 to 12 is, I don't think that's bad at all. So when he's opened and got into the middle overs, I don't think he has had much of a problem. I think the George Linda spell, A, he was bowling really well, and B, I think it was 9 balls, right, that he batted in the middle overs. So
I think it was 12 of 12 overall.
Okay, so I think sometimes what top order batters tend to do when a spinner comes on is maybe an over they have a look, and then they decide, okay, these are my areas, even against a good ball, that I can take a risk. For example, you would have Shane Watson saying that he knew that like Rashid Khan would start bowling fuller if he didn't get a wicket early on, and then that was the time to cash in, right? And overs 3 and 4 against Rashid Khan, his strike rate is dramatically better than overs 1 and 2. So there are these kinds of things that top order batters do against spinners. So given that he didn't play Linda for that long, I wouldn't like really read so much into it. Over a larger period, I think he's done okay when he's opened and got into the middle overs. When he's started in the middle overs, I don't know if he's the ideal guy for that, where you need to start going quick in the middle overs right from the time you get in. I don't know if he's got the ideal game for that, but for a guy who opens and gets into the middle overs, I think he's done it often enough to know that he can do it.
I mean, again, I must repeat that we are just picking holes for the sake of
fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, just to clarify the numbers in that game against South Africa, it was 9 balls that Sanju faced after the power play. He got 10 of 9. And against Linda, it was 7 of 5, and then 3 of 4 against Donovan Ferreira. So a bit of a slowdown, but I was looking at his numbers again last 3 years. If you look at him opening and then batting outside the power play over 6 to 12, he's actually going at 200 plus. So when he gets that start, he does tend to go pretty fast even after 6 overs. So again, I mean, I don't think that any of us were really arguing that Sanju should be, tried ahead of Gill, especially considering Gill has had a good run. I guess the question was more of, should you drop Gill altogether and bring in Ishan Kishan, considering you have Jitesh Sharma also to come in later, but we've already had that discussion. Just quickly before we go, I want to touch a little bit about South Africa because we kind of ignored them after the ODI series. KK, you've watched them closely during this series. What do you make of them going into the World Cup? Are they kind of dark horses or not quite there yet?
I I don't know if they've picked their best squad or their best 11 in a long time. And it was kind of worrying for me to hear Aiden Markram at one of the tosses say it's part of our rotation policy, which is great. Like if you're 12 months out from a World Cup, still, okay, we're still like looking at a few options, testing them out. By now, you want to be very close to the first 11 that you want to play in every game, right? I don't think they're anywhere near it. I don't think they got anywhere near it during this series, and they were making changes in pretty much every game as well. So, if you look at the talent pool they have, yes, they could definitely be dark horses. They've got some fantastic players. Are they picking their best combination, and will they pick their best combination by the time they pick their World Cup squad is like a big question for me. Like for example, to be this close to a World Cup and not know if Riza Hendricks is your first choice opener or if you want Markram opening, and Markram is your captain as well. This is a very fundamental question, and I don't know if they have an answer for it yet. They haven't shown us that they have an answer. They may have one. So for me, that's super worrying. They do have one more series after this. Correct me if I'm wrong. But in that series, they would want to like right from the start be like, this is our 11. They show us that they pick their best 11 and like go from there. Otherwise, they're going to have problems, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty strange. I mean, even Tristan Stubbs, who I think most of us, at least who watch IPL or who've been watching South African cricket, would think is one of your first choice players, actually played only two of these T20 internationals. So it seems like a bit of a lack of clarity even there in the middle order. With the pace bowling again, I mean, I'm guessing that Rabada at some point comes back into the squad if he's fit. But it doesn't seem like they're fully set on who their first choice pacers are apart from Marco Jansen. So, Sid, what do you make of their chances in the World Cup? Are they kind of behind some of the top teams now, or do you think that they could be a surprise package?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of it, but T20 is the kind of game where I mean, it's just 5 games you need to get on a roll, and they have the raw material. I won't be surprised if somehow Heinrich Klaassen comes out of retirement also. There's one more series to go. I don't know. I mean, there could be talks going around. I mean, Quinton de Kock has come back. If Klaassen comes back, I would just, I mean, a couple of changes are that you'd, I don't think Riza Hendricks has shown enough because he's played close to 100 T20 Is. I don't think he's that elite T20 opener that you need. And opening is a very, very important role in T20s. So you need to get your opener right. If Klaassen comes back, great. Even if it doesn't, uh, I think then you're forced with David Miller. David Miller, who's played so much T20 cricket, and he's a great front runner when you are like, 100 in 10 overs, he can turn it into 250, but sometimes it's not great on pitches that are a little bit doing even a little bit. So there are question marks over Miller, but overall they've got the all-rounders that they have, the deep hitting they have the potential to get on a roll, and that's all you need in a T20 World Cup, really. I mean, not always do you West Indies, the World Cups that they won, they were never playing their best 11s in the lead up to the World Cup, but they found their team going in, and they found enough momentum to just carry them over the line in 3 or 4 games that you need to do it for. So anything can happen with them.
David Miller does have one all-time iconic knock on a very hard wicket in a tough situation, which was the 2023 World Cup semi-final. But I take your point. I take your larger point that most often he struggles. He has that one century when South Africa were getting run over by Australia in this World Cup semi-final. But yeah, in general, and also he is now on the wrong side of 35. So he may not be a guaranteed starter, but if Klaasen comes back, then of course you could just have Klaasen and Tristan Stubbs in there, along with Donovan Ferreira and George Linde in the middle order.
Davis, yeah.
Yeah, Brevis, I think, will be in the number 3 most likely if Markram opens with De Kock. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of strength still in their batting, and with Corbin Bosch, etc., to come in, they've got depth in the batting as well. I guess the bowling would be somewhat of a concern if Rabada doesn't come back, or if they can't figure out the other seamers. Although Jansen and Ngidi are pretty decent. Yeah. I mean, Jansen and Ngidi along with Rabada makes a pretty decent pace bowling lineup. So we'll see. I mean, yeah, South Africa have, I think, one more series, and we'll get a better idea of what they're looking like going into the World Cup. That pretty much covers. Yeah.
I just want to see one guy at this World Cup. Hopefully, I want to see Luande Pretorius, somehow getting into that squad and playing maybe, because I just love watching him bat. He's got these incredible wrists and this way of generating power that is just brilliant to watch. So I mean, that's just from a personal point of view. I don't know if they think he's in their best combination. But yeah, I'd love to see him play if they can somehow get him in.
Yeah, so that's South Africa. We've covered a lot in this podcast. We've covered India's squad at the beginning, and then, of course, their 3-1 victory against South Africa. I've been trying to think of a catchphrase, guys, to end this podcast with. I've been told that most podcasts end with a bit of a catchphrase. I'm going to give you 2 options. One is to do with Kuldeep Yadav, one is to do with quick singles and non-striker runouts. Which one do you prefer?
I am going with the Kuldeep one because, eventually,
So
whatever topic we could be talking about, I don't know, Zimbabwe's chances at the T20 World Cup, and it'll come back to India going to find a way of not playing Kuldeep Yadav somehow.
Yeah, okay. So I'll end this podcast.
I prefer quick singles because this is as redundant as quick singles.
Okay, so I'll end with the Kuldeep Yadav one this time, and we can try the quick single one this time. The Kuldeep Yadav one just goes, okay, guys, we'll be back pretty soon with another episode of Rock and Roll It. Until then, enjoy your week and enjoy the genius of Kuldeep Yadav. Thank you.
TV umpire to director, we have a review. Can you rock and roll it for me, please?